MLB jerseys used to look like this. NBA jerseys used to look like this. NHL jerseys used to look like this. NFL jerseys used to look like this. And the UFC jerseys used to look like this. And then this. In the future, it might look like this. But the jerseys for all these sports are not even made by Nike. They are handled by a third-party company. And even though the current deal with the UFC means that Venom provides their outfits, it might be a lot more profitable to outsource that work. You see, traditionally, if you want a uniform, you would find a company that makes uniforms, you pay that company, and they'll provide you the uniforms. But that is not how it works in these cases, actually. Nike's in charge of providing the MLB, the NFL, and the NBA with uniforms. But none of these leagues are paying anything to Nike. In fact, Nike's paying $1 billion to them. And somehow this exchange still has made Nike millions. The first deal was with the NFL to make their jerseys. Players immediately complained that they didn't fit and it made them look fat. They paid another $1 billion to make NBA jerseys, and immediately they started ripping and falling apart. And now MLB is having a similar issue. Nike has introduced new league-wide uniforms that are making fans, media members, and even players very angry. And a lot of people are calling them the worst uniforms of all time. Everybody seems to be blaming Nike and Fanatics for making this terrible uniform. But the reality is, it's actually Jeremy Lin's fault. Yes, because 12 years ago, Linsanity created a butterfly effect for all of this to happen. And before we get into the UFC's future wardrobe malfunctions, they've already been having problems with their gear. The UFC 8 years ago required their fighters to wear Reebok clothing as a part of a sponsorship. And tons of fighters were mad at it because it was burning a hole into their pocket. All these fighters were making a bunch of money off of sponsorships, and all of a sudden, fighters were no longer allowed to get sponsored. But according to UFC president Dana White, fighters get a cut of the profit of the sponsorship deal, especially if it has their name on it. And one of these carefully crafted UFC shirts carries the name of the well-known UFC fighter Gilbert Melendez, otherwise known as Gilbert Melendez. And there were myriad names misspelled in the Reebok launch. In fact, so many of them, there's an entire Wikipedia page discussing them.
They did a great job in the design, and it serves the purpose it's supposed to serve.
But hey, maybe if you get a non-personalized shirt, maybe the spelling will be right on that. Look at this really nice Pride shirt. According to this page, you can celebrate your UFC fandom with a Pride t-shirt. That's like saying you can celebrate your Manny Pacquiao fandom by buying a Floyd Mayweather shirt.
Huh?
Yeah. But hey, maybe you go for some high-end jewelry then. They offer a plethora of it. Well, high-end prices, not particularly high-end quality. You can buy the scrunchy bracelet with sterling silver for only $800. Keep in mind, this is probably a $20 piece of silver. And as the description states, your UFC pride won't be clear when you wear this. They also have sterling silver dog tags, which are $470. The same engraved tag sold by sales for $50. But forcing fighters to wear gear that was now UFC gear and not actually sponsored by the fighters, this gave them the power to do a lot of creepy things with this gear. In fact, taking a cue from the Japanese, let's call it a kink market, they started saying used women's bras and shorts in their website. For every single UFC fight and show, women's fighters are forced to give either a bra or shorts. This used piece of sweaty bra or shorts are later on sold on the website for an insane amount of money. You can find Ronda Rousey's bra in there for $10,000. Michelle Waterson's dirty shorts for only $1,000. Some female fighters have even been known to accidentally urinate during a fight, like Angela Magana, who couldn't contain herself at the Ultimate Fighter finale. And you can buy these shorts and they come with, I'm not making this up, a certificate of authenticity to prove that the stains are actually hers. Hey, at least you can see it's real and gross. Please, we need somebody to end this madness. And the company that might do it might just be Nike. But in fact, not only just Nike, also Nike partnering with Fanatics. It all started in February 2012. Jeremy Lin had been cut by 2 teams already, and the Knicks were already considering cutting him, but they just put him randomly in a game and he scored 25 points, had 5 rebounds and 7 assists in only 36 minutes. At this time, Adidas made NBA uniforms, Reebok made NFL jerseys, and Majestics made MLB uniforms. Each league had a unique deal with each company. And the reason why they did this is because it gave them the rights to make replica jerseys, meaning that if they sold a lot of jerseys, they will be able to recoup their investment. These companies would spend a fortune in licensing these uniforms until something changed in 2012. Nike entered the market by bidding $1.1 billion for the NFL jerseys for 5 seasons. That is $220 million a year. Nearly 10 times more than Reebok was paying for the same rights a year earlier. Even when accounting for inflation, Nike outbid Reebok for $250 million. They didn't want to stop at football. They also wanted baseball and basketball. But for a company like Adidas to compete against the bids that Nike was putting out there, they needed to sell a lot more jerseys. And even though it seemed impossible, that year, Jeremy Lin was about to make it possible. He followed his first game with another 28 points, and the entire world all of a sudden knew who Jeremy Lin was, and they were all heavily invested in him. However, for his next game against Kobe Bryant in Madison Square Garden, what seemed like a perfect storm would become a logistical nightmare for Adidas, because people from across the world would rush to get his jersey. Unfortunately for them, there just wasn't any, because just a week before, Jeremy Lin was a nobody. Therefore, Adidas had no reason to make a Jeremy Lin jersey. But when he torched Kobe Bryant for 38 points, as the entire MSG crowd cheered him on like Jeremy was their savior, this was the height of Linsanity. Yet, Jeremy Lin jerseys didn't even exist. Yet, the Knicks quickly put t-shirts on their website and put warnings in there that the shirts would not ship within weeks. They wouldn't be delivered for weeks. Desperate to take advantage of the demand, Models pulled Jeremy Lin jerseys off the assembly line early, but they were only available in 2 of the 150 stores. The Knicks themselves couldn't get Jeremy Lin jerseys. And when they brought jerseys to the team store, there was a rush of people that wanted them, but they admitted they only had 200 of them. Adidas scrambled to make as much Jeremy Lin merch as they could. However, Linsanity ended almost as quick as it started. He ended the season injured, and the Knicks decided to cut him by the end of the season. And now the insane amount of Jeremy Lin merch was completely worthless. According to Model, after his departure, Model Sporting Goods sold about 40,000 Lin jerseys and t-shirts at a discounted price as low as $1, resulting in a massive loss of profit. This might have cost the NBA millions of dollars. In fact, this deal might have cost Adidas millions of dollars with the NBA. By the end of the year, the share of footwork by Adidas in the basketball market was only 3%. Thinking the deal wasn't worth it, Adidas didn't even make an offer to the NBA when they were coming to renew contracts. But yet, for some reason, Nike agreed to give him $1 billion for essentially the same agreement. That's $125 million a year. That's nearly 3 times more than what Adidas was paying for the exact same deal. And to justify this deal, they had to sell a lot more jerseys. I cannot stress that enough. And to do this, they started making a ton of new jerseys. Cool looking ones though, and they were all worth it. In 7 seasons with the NBA, Nike has made 438 different jerseys. That is over 150 more jerseys than Adidas made in the previous 7 seasons before Nike took over. By pumping out new jersey after new jersey, Nike has helped NBA increase their jersey sales by double-digit percentage points in 5 of their first 6 seasons. And they did the same thing for the NFL. The previous 9 years before the Nike deal, 126 jerseys were made. In the 9 years since, 180 jerseys have been made. Within a few years, Nike was selling up to 4 times as much as Reebok was selling. And Nike just kept bragging about creating a supply chain that could meet anybody's needs and have it ready for consumers within weeks. But as we saw with Linsanity, Even this is too slow at times. And that is where Fanatics comes in. Before this, Fanatics was an e-commerce platform and they sold sports merchandise online. They were so good at this that MLB actually signed an exclusive deal with Fanatics to have Fanatics process the entirety online merchandise, and their sales went up 67%. And now Fanatics deals with the NBA, NFL, MLS, Formula One, NASCAR, pretty much any single sports league out there. And the Fanatics production line has become so quick and efficient that if a player gets traded tomorrow, Fanatics will be able to have that jersey delivered to you within 3 days. Teams, jersey makers used to only offer 3 jerseys, usually of the highest paid guys, because making them was a huge expense. Now Fanatics can make a jersey for anyone, whether they're on the team or they're not, and get it to you in 3 days. And this has exploded jersey sales. And MLB and all these leagues have even allowed them game uniforms, helping Nike a ton. Nike tells them what they need to do, sends them the materials, makes the design, and Nike's done with the process. Fanatics takes care of actually delivering the goods. And Nike still gets their patent swoosh in every single jersey. Having that swoosh be shown is the only thing that Nike might really care about. They outbid every single company by hundreds of millions of dollars to force leagues to put this logo on each and every jersey. And this is not just in the MLB. The NBA used to refuse to put these logos on jersey, but they couldn't deny Nike because they offered 3 times more. Majestics used to have logos on the sleeves, and teams like the Yankees were exempt from putting them on the jersey at all to protect the purity of the brand. But when Nike reached out to MLB, all purity of brand went out the window, and the Nike logo made it in the jersey. These logos are essentially advertising, which improves their brand exposure. Now hear these numbers out, because here's where it gets crazy. Last year's Super Bowl generated $285 million worth of exposure for brands. Nike alone accounted for 60% of that. During a typical NFL game, the Nike logo is visible for about half the game. That is over 4,000 seconds. That same game, the Super Bowl, companies paid $7 million for a 30-second ad. That is $233,000 per second, meaning that if they wanted as much airtime as Nike, they would have to pay $964,000. And Nike only has to pay $300 million a deal. And that is not for one game, that is for the entire year. And they don't get that much airtime during the Super Bowl only, but every single game across the league. All 272 of them. They also had the same deal with the NBA, where their Nike logo is visible 24 minutes every single game. And when you watch an MLB game, logos are strategically placed on the chest, so when the camera zooms in on the player, you can see the logo. And if the player turns around, there's one strategically placed on his pants, so that you are seeing the logo at all times. And all the team merch is also made by Nike, so if they cut to the dugout or whatever, there is also a Nike logo right there. And all the replica jerseys are also made by Nike. So every single fan also is wearing a Nike logo. The Nike logo dominates the game. In playoff broadcasts, the Nike logo was seen 66% of the time of the entire broadcast. That is an hour and 40 minutes of exposure per game. Extrapolate this for an entire season, that is 14.5 million seconds. That's 243,000 hours. Which essentially is the equivalent of paying for 486,000 30-second commercials. And the next company on their site might just be the UFC. Now under TKO Holdings, Nick Khan the helm, Dana White willing to make tons of money on the most capitalistic run in the history of the company. UFC might soon see itself with Nike gear. And yes, I can confirm, Venom deal was extended all the way until 2029 as the official outfitter. However, the gloves are still up for grabs. The canvas is still up for grabs. They signed a deal with Project Rock with shoes. Who knows, maybe Nike gets the next deal with shoes. But one thing is for certain, Nike wants the most amount of airtime they can get. And if you ask me, the gloves might be it, but only time will tell if I'm right or if I'm wrong. However, I feel fairly confident that the UFC will end up going with Nike because they're not dumb. They build an entire company from zero to the company that it is today. Check out the video right here on how they did it. But also, maybe the biggest MMA promotion in the world might sign this deal with Nike instead. Check out this video right here on how the biggest MMA promotion in the world beat the UFC. And I'll see you on that video. See ya!
Ballin' now, skirt down, all of these diamonds sold. Bottom for me, but they're yours now. You could drink it, but take it slow. Ballin' for you, falling for